Hello, and welcome to another session of Generally Speaking. Today is Friday, August 1st, 2025, and I'm your host, Bill Lawrence. Or am I? Why would you wonder? Why would anyone wonder? Why? Well, because we live in the age now of AI, artificial intelligence, which is doing some amazing things with video presentations such that you don't know if they're real or not. I could be totally fake. I'm telling you I'm not, but you don't know. This is a really scary thing that's happening with AI. When things are going to happen that might seem really horrible, but they're just totally made up. I'm already seeing stories being made up, such as Tel Aviv attacked, Netanyahu in a coma, brought to the hospital, thousands killed, and it's all just a make believe story. And I don't even think it's made up with AI. It's just a simple, make believe story showing some war scenes, some bombings from the times Tehran did hit Tel Aviv. And I'm just really concerned what could happen with AI when it's going to look like something real happened that actually didn't. Well, that's that story. What's my next topic? Um, the GOP is nominating people to positions, and whenever any party's in command, the opposite party tries to slow down the nominations. It's very rare that both parties agree on the candidate's qualifications, and so the opposite party is always trying to slow them down. So the GOP is trying to work around it, change the rules. And I was looking at one comment by a Democrat about why would they do that? Doesn't the GOP realize that this undermines the credibility of the candidate? That it puts into question their quality, their integrity. And just asking such a question of the GOP is laughable because the GOP doesn't care one bit, first of all, about anybody's opinion. They only know that Trump wants the person, and that's it. About credibility, integrity, that's not a qualification for the GOP. You just have to be picked by Trump. In fact, credibility and integrity is usually something that counts against you. So just questioning, the GOP on those grounds is kind of ludicrous. What happens? Okay, we got a story about Chief Justice, not a Chief Justice, Justice Boasberg. Here is a justice who was at a meeting of the justices, made a comment about the actions of the Trump administration, flaunting the directives of the courts, and him saying to his fellow justices in conversation that this can result in a constitutional crisis, where one branch of the government is just totally ignoring another branch of the government. Constitutional crisis. Well, at the moment, Mr. Boasberg is doing things that the Trump administration doesn't like, particularly with the behaviors with the immigrants being shipped off to El Salvador when Boasberg told them don't ship anybody, and they shipped them anyway. And he wants to hold people in contempt, and the administration is not liking that. So they want to file misconduct complaints against him, saying that this judge is flaunting the courts. He's flaunting the courts. He's talking about how the administration is flaunting the courts, but they want to say that he's undermining the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Impartiality. Oh my gosh! You look at what the Supreme Court has done for Trump's benefit, and say there's any impartiality there. You've got to be crazy. How about this one? This is my favorite. The Mar-a-Lago documents case that was going on for years. Trump holding on to these documents, refusing to give them up. And we had the judge, Aileen Cannon, who was overseeing it, and she was delaying it and delaying it, put up one delay after another, and it goes on for years. And finally, at the end, says, you know what, let's just throw this whole case out because I don't think the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, is really a thing. There's no authority in his office to prosecute any of this, so the case is thrown out. Now, if that's not a lack of impartiality, I don't know what is. And just speaking of that, it amazes me that this person hasn't been disbarred, hasn't been thrown out of the courts for doing something so blatantly um, uncourt-like. I don't know what the word is for it, but she just said a case is thrown out because the special prosecutor is not a thing. When everybody and their brother and their sister knows that the special prosecutor is a thing, and yet, all right, we're worried about impartiality. Another story. A German economist was on TV saying how the German economy is going downhill. It's going bad. They're whatever it means, the economy going bad. Anyway, she wants to blame it on the workers having too many benefits. You know, we give you all these sick leaves, all these days offs, all these maternity leaves, and we give you, you know, reduced working hours, and we pay you good, and we can't afford it anymore. It's breaking the bank, especially with all the retirees and no young people filling in the retirees that left. You know, the old baby boom story. There were all these people born in the baby boom, and then the babies not being born anymore. So there's a smaller workforce, not enough to pay for the retired people. The workers got to pull in their belt. It's the old workers' fault, workers' problem. No mention about the profits that the companies are making. No mention of the incomes that the CEOs get. And while all this is going on, all this, you know, money's getting tight, folks. Let's increase the military budget by 5%. Yeah, we need to do that when there's no wars going on, when there's no threats of war. You know, there's Russia dealing with Ukraine. That's Ukraine. It's not anybody else. And the only reason they're in Ukraine is because NATO's pushed themselves into Russia's, you know, front door. You know, the United States didn't like it when Russia was going to put missiles in Cuba in the 60s. We were willing to put up a naval blockade to stop the Russian ships from delivering those missiles. So this is how important that kind of an idea is. And Russia feels the exact same way. And yet, so, what do you expect them to be doing in Ukraine when NATO is trying to put missiles, which they already have missiles in Poland, which is, you know, almost at their front door anyway. So, any rate, the workers, the German workers, are the ones that have to pull in the belt, of course. Then I just had this concept of international competition. You know, the businesses when they see the economy's bad in this country, maybe they'll relocate to another country. This playing off one country after another. You know, if all the countries got together and said, "Listen, we're going to have a level playing field. No one's going to be able to offer better financial deals to any company, so that a company isn't going to run here or run there because they're giving me a better deal." And you know, they leave some city where they have been entrenched forever and the whole economy is built around that business, and then they decide, well, there's better pickings, better opportunities over here, goodbye, and that whole city collapses. You know, it's called planning. It's what the world needs: more international planning. We need cooperation, not competition. All right, what do we got? A statement by Caitlin Johnson. I love this girl. She's really intelligent. She's waxes very well with her vocabulary, and she was commenting on a reaction to all the suffering going on in Gaza and the international outcry at the people starving to death, skin and bones, babies dying, and which I still think is very funny that it's okay that bombs get dropped on them, but if they're getting starved to death, that's an issue. At any rate, Israel and their supporters are trying to say, you know, we're not causing. See, those people that you see dying, those are people that have pre-existing medical conditions, and those are the ones that are starving to death. The people with pre-existing medical conditions. The things like starvation tends to um, amplify. Yeah, yeah. Starvation does tend to amplify any pre-existing conditions, or if you don't have any conditions, you sure start getting some when you have starvation going on. So I had never heard that comment or people even trying to support that, but I thought, well, that was pretty sick. Here was something that shocked me. Several Muslim countries, the Mideast, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, started to saying that Hamas should surrender, so we can have peace in Gaza. As Hamas should surrender. You know, that certainly is one way to have peace, have Hamas surrender. Another way would be for Israel to stop. That would be another way for Israel to say, "Okay, we'll stop." Slaughtering you. I mean, really, if you look at this so-called war, where does the war happen? It happens in Gaza. It doesn't happen in Israel. There aren't any Hamas people running around in Israel. No. So hardly really what you would call a war. But I can't believe that the Egyptians and the Saudis and the Qataris are telling Hamas that they should give up. But another thing about have Hamas give up. You say, well, if one side or the other gives up, that's the end of the war. But would it really be? Don't bet on it. If Hamas were to give up all their weapons and say, okay, we're going to lay them down, we're going to allow some other authority be in control in charge here, Israel would wipe out all the Palestinians. Israel has no intention of letting any Palestinian live or exist in Gaza. They're already wiping out the Palestinians in the West Bank, and there's no Hamas there. So, I mean, that should be enough to tell you everything. To say nothing of the statements that come from the Israeli officials on a regular basis about the goal is to wipe them all out. So, having Hamas lay down its arms would not accomplish any peace whatsoever. What else? We've got back to the United States and back to the ICE agents, grabbing people that you're not supposed to just grab without a warrant. Just look at them, say, you look like somebody who's here illegally, and they'll take anybody, even if you're an American citizen, if you don't have your proof of your citizenship, which who carries around a birth certificate? A driver's license isn't a proof of citizenship. You can get a driver's license being an illegal immigrant. But they'll take you and they'll lock you up, throw you away in the dungeon for a couple of days with no access to lawyers. It is just unbelievable, the conditions that happen in the country that aren't addressed, that should be addressed, and yet that aren't. And take the places where they take people. They're hellholes. There's nobody checking to see if the conditions are humane. And in fact, we have Congress people trying to go into ICE facilities where they are legally permitted, and the ICE people telling, no, you can't come here. I'm really wondering what that's like. You got bully boys standing in front saying, you're not coming through. Why don't the Congress people get some bully boys? Why don't they get some, militia? Come with them. All right, let's have it. Oh, we're coming in. We're pushing our way in. I would like to see that. They're legally entitled to do that. I would love to see something like that. So this whole ICE thing, and that also brings up just the whole issue of prisons, generally speaking. We all know they're horrible. People get raped in the kids' prisons all the time. There's no attempt at rehabilitation. There's no attempt at giving you some skill when you get out. Some people are in there; they're hardcore, murderers with there's no chance of rehabilitating them. But there are a lot of people who are in there for drugs that you had an ounce of pot and you got 50 years to life, and just inhumane, totally inhumane conditions. The guards that beat you up regularly, it's just a horrible situation. Prisons need to be totally reimagined, reworked. And in fact, this even goes for the whole policing system. Police get away with murder constantly. If it wasn't for the introduction of cameras, they would be getting away with so much more. Thank goodness they finally came up with cameras, because now we see so many of the things that they do that the cameras show. Oh, that's not the story you're telling us, is it? And what we really need is a civilian oversight board to check everything that that cops do. Everything. The cameras should be 24/7. If a camera isn't on, anything that a cop says happened should just be thrown out the window. You don't have your camera on. Why wasn't your camera on? And they routinely do this. They're in the middle of something, and there's something they think, I don't know if I want anybody to see this, and they turn off their cameras. Nice. You should get fired if you had your camera taken off. In fact, I heard a great suggestion that police should have insurance, like the medical people have malpractice insurance. Police should have malpractice insurance. And you get sued because so often police are sued, but not the individual police. They go on working. Sometimes they even get promoted and they get cop of the year award for something they did. It was horrible. Broke a man's arms, had his legs amputated because they just dragged him when his leg was stuck somewhere, and nothing happens to them. Person sues, they sue the police department, they sue the town, the taxpayer ends up paying it. Nothing happens to the cop, keeps working. He needs malpractice coverage, and if he gets sued enough and he can't get the coverage anymore because the company's going to drop him, insurance company's going to drop him, well, then there you go. There goes your license to police anymore. That is something we could really use. All right, so what do we got? Alina Habba. She's the acting attorney general for the state of New Jersey, or at least she was. She had a time limit, 120 days, and it came and went. And the courts, according to the normal process, picked someone else to pick up the job. In fact, it was the second in command, the person below Alina Habba. Well, Trump administration didn't like that, so they just immediately fired the person the courts selected and said Alina Habba is now the acting attorney general. And so this is a fight about, well, who gets to say who's the attorney general and who isn't? Is it the courts? Is it the administration? Is the what? And what is this? This is just one more instance of constitutional crisis that the Trump administration constantly engages in. It's funny. I remember when the idea of constitutional crisis was first being put forward, and it happened with these immigrants being shipped off to El Salvador. And it sounded really frightening. Constitutional crisis. Ooh, crisis. That's a crisis word. Constitutional crisis. So, but what does it mean? What does it mean exactly? It means someone is just breaking the rules. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. And so then what happens? Does the world blow up? No, they just keep going on doing what they're doing. And I'm not saying that, okay, so it doesn't mean anything. I think it's very significant that it shows the country's going into something that could be totally frightening, like the president just saying, I'm going to send troops out into the streets to shoot anybody I don't like. If there's any protesters, we'll shoot them. And I'm just going to start illegally imprisoning, taking people off the street I don't like, and I'm going to imprison them with no access to lawyers and no access to anyone, and they're just gone. You'll never see them. They're going to be sent to Guantanamo, El Salvador, whatever. This is what constitutional crisis can go down to. So at any rate, this here's this Alina Habba thing. One more constitutional crisis. All right, what's another exciting thing? An exciting thing, and listening to me is very exciting. I make these things exciting. Waterbury, Connecticut. I lived in Connecticut for a while. I liked Connecticut. I like living up north. Gets a little cold up there sometimes. I'm in North Carolina now. Weather's much more moderate, but very red for me. I really prefer a blue state. Well, what can you do? So here I am. What I'm talking about, Waterbury, Connecticut. What's going on? There's a town in there that celebrates some event or another every year, and there's a flag raising of all kinds of flags can go up. I don't know what's with the flags. Anyway, they want to have a Christian flag. And here we go again. It's another Christian story, and the idea, of course, is you can't promote any religion like Christianity. You can put up a Christian flag if you're allowing, other faith flags, other anybody else's flags. It's okay. So here's a fellow who loves sticking it to anytime there's a Christian flag, Christian display going up. He just wants to let you know, all right, I'm going to participate too. And he puts up this flag called, I don't know what his name is. Let's just call him Robert something. He calls Robert Satanist camp school of fun and games, and he makes a nice big flag, but it's got the word Satan in it. Oh yeah, and these people go crazy. Anytime you mention the word Satan, the Christians go crazy. But at any rate, um, what are they going to do? They have to let him put up his flag. So rather than let that happen, that horrible thing, they say, okay, no flags, no flags. But that really upsets them. So a year comes around, they're going, it's flag time again, and they're trying thinking, how can we do this? How can we get our Christian flag up? And meanwhile, keep this person's Satan flag out. How can we keep them all out? What is it with politicians in all these states that have to push a Christian anything? I mean, don't you know separation of church and state? Yeah, sure. It was never mentioned directly in the Constitution. It was just in some letter that somebody Adams wrote to his wife. But the whole idea is there that the state will not make any religion a state religion, and it will also not interfere with any worshiping of religion. But that doesn't mean that you should push it. And yet, there's always somebody trying to push it, especially on state grounds. Well, there's just another issue of that going on, and them trying to think there's got to be some way around this. There's got to be some way around this. And so that's that story. Here's another fun story. Rockland County. Rockland County is a county in New York. And what's going on there is an effort. You have to make an effort to get a vote recount. A vote recount what? From the 2024 election. Why is that? Why is it? Because there was an anomaly. There was something very strange that happened. What happened is that it's a blue area, first of all. And so you got all these votes for blue representatives, and amongst those blue people on the list, of course, was Kamala, and she got 0 votes. What? Not one? Not one. That seems very strange, doesn't it? 0 votes. You get thousands of votes for the senators and the Congress people, and for superintendent of schools and what have you. Nothing for Kamala. So this seems very suspicious. And the thing of it is, it didn't just happen in Rockland County. It's happened in several other states, and notably, it was happening mostly in blue states. It happened mostly where it affected Kamala's victory. And then there are these other things going on about how just before the election, there was a sudden change to the software in the voting machines that happened like 2 seconds before the elections, and nobody got to check it out because there are certain changes you can make to these machines that some require. Okay, let's go over it all, make sure it's not impacting anything negatively. Whereas some are considered these are just minus little tweak things, so it goes faster or whatever. And so this change was marked as this is a meaningless change, nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. At any rate, now we have this really strange condition where all these blue people were elected, but not Kamala. Now, this isn't entirely without some kind of precedent. AOC, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Her district had a lot of support for her, and they really like her. But at the same time, in her district, there were a lot of Trump supporters. In fact, people that voted for her, a lot of them voted for Trump. And so this is the strangest thing. I mean, these people, I don't know what they're thinking. But she went and asked them, tried to survey, find out, why that was. But so, yeah, there is some precedent about, you can be voting for the senators and still not vote for the president. But this was a little strange where there were no votes for Kamala. And it happened in several different states. So there's an investigation going on. And what I find interesting about this is just to get the investigation going, you've got to go through the courts. You got to make a case. And you have to go through steps. And the person I was watching who was discussing, she's the head of it all, was saying how, there were worried at their first presentation because you don't just ask and they say, okay, you can do it. It's like they ask, they say you can do it, but we have to hear from the parties. We have to hear from those parties. And after you do that, you have to go through stage 2 and then stage 3 and then stage 4 and then 5, 6, 7, and 8 and 5 different things. And so getting there is a really a slog. And you could be dismissed. It could be dismissed at any time. That's all the judges has to say, dismissed, and it's done. Hasn't been dismissed yet. It's still going on. It should be very interesting to see how that goes because, a lot of times things seem hanky-panky, and then you do the count. We've seen Republicans claim that we need a recount. You may remember in my state, North Carolina, they was an election for a judge, and the GOP, the Democrat won, and so they wanted a recount. So they did a recount, and no good. The Democrat still won. They had to do a recount again, and still the Democrat won. And so then they started to make a case about it. We don't think the ballots should be legitimized because we think they had something funny about the information that was on them, and so they shouldn't be recognized. And you can't just de-recognize things when you had rules about what's acceptable and what isn't. You can't change them after the fact. And what's more than that, they only wanted to change the rules in the districts where they lost. So I think you're being disingenuous here. At any rate, something I was thinking of just popped in my head. This is one of my spontaneous things. I call it a forever moment. Human beings, we need distraction. We need a variety. We need to come and go. That's why if you're in solitary confinement, it's so maddening. It's so crazy. You don't have any change of day whatsoever. No change of environment. Nobody to talk to. No TV to watch. No books to read. No puzzles to play. It's maddening. And I was thinking, what if you were in some pleasant environment? Maybe you're on a beach, sipping a cocktail with a nice gentle breeze. It's just perfect, and you're as happy as can be. Would you be as happy as could be if you had to stay there forever? If that was it, you're just standing on this beach, and it's as beautiful as it could be, and but you had to be there forever. How soon would that beautiful start going by? Or imagine anything that's as beautiful as you could imagine. What's your favorite spot? What's your high activity that really gives you that rush? Suppose you could stay there forever. Would you want to? Would it be so great anymore? Might not. I saw a Twilight Zone movie like that once. I don't know how many people know the Twilight Zone. Older people would know that, but where these people were placed in like mannequins in a spot where it was exactly what they would always want to be. And they were told, listen, we're going to give you what your wish is. We're going to give you exactly your fondest wish. And then they were all thinking, yeah, oh, great, I want that. And their wish would be to be here, there, in the middle of this, that. And so there they were, except they were mannequins now in that spot forever. At Twilight Zone, that Rod Serling, he's the guy that made it. He had a really out there kind of mind. All right, what else? We got Canada, I mentioned this, decided they're not going to buy jets from us anymore. This really has to upset the jet manufacturers because these are, billion-dollar deals. Canada decided they're not going to buy the jets. They're sick of the runarounds the Americans are giving them. And but that was an old story. And what I just wanted to mention was now India is decided they've had enough of Americans' shenanigans, Americans with their tariffs here and tariffs there. So they're going to not buy the F-35s. That's our premier fighter jet. They're not going to buy it. There goes some more billion-dollar deals out the window. This is Trump making everything great again. And you know what, Russia, where they're going to buy? They're going to buy them from Russia. Oh, that's got to really stick in somebody's craw. They're going to buy them from Russia, and Russia's even going to make a deal with. On top of that, they're going to sell them state-of-the-art air defense systems. Better than that Israeli Iron Dome, which doesn't seem so great anymore. But that was touted as the hot stuff, and the Russians got better, and they're going to give it to India. So, at any rate, India is going to buy the planes from Russia. Canada is going to buy the planes from somebody else, and so United States more sinking in the ground. That's the only thing that Trump has managed to do for this country since he got in his 6 months is pounded everything into the dirt. He's just torn up the government to little shreds. It's like a cancer eating away at it. He's done nothing for the economy. He's done nothing for our standing on the world stage. They all think we're ruled by a buffoon. Nobody wants to have any dealings with us anymore. And we've got what is it? 2 years, 4 years. We've still got how many more years to have to deal with this? How much worse could it possibly get? I guess we'll find out. Well, that's all for this. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you hit the like and the subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.